Imperfect Thriving, Episode 51. Unlock your most powerful mindset to triumph in 2021. I'm Katherine Ely, former attorney turned licensed counselor and coach. Oh yeah, and recovering perfectionist. It wasn't long ago that my self-criticism and fear kept me from having the self-worth, confidence, and courage to make my life my own. Through life lessons learned and by going back to school in my 40s, I'm finally enjoying my life in a way I never thought possible. And it is amazing. I want you right here with me. No need for you to go back to school either. I created this podcast to show you the way to the imperfect thriving kind of life, based on what you value, filled with self-worth, confidence, way more joy, and no more regrets. So let's go. I think no matter how we have each experienced 2020, I can say with confidence that we are all happy to see it go. But where do we go from here? Before we can determine the direction that you want to head, it is important to first recognize the trauma you experienced in 2020. Our traumas, large or small, are uniquely experienced by each of us. I have so many clients belittle or minimize what they've been through this year. If they have not lost a loved one to COVID or racial injustice, they tell themselves what they have been through this year is insignificant. While it is true that some trauma affect us more than others, the loss of a loved one, the loss of your livelihood or extreme economic loss, the loss of your health, these traumas can be devastating. If you have suffered this type of trauma or loss, my heart goes out to you, and I really pray that you have the support you need to get to the other side. But if you have not suffered extreme trauma, that does not mean the events of 2020 have been insignificant to you and have not affected you. To some degree or another, we've all suffered loss in 2020. It's not helpful for you to disregard your loss because someone else may have suffered more. One is not connected to or dependent upon the other. Avoiding your loss and your feelings about it does not help those who might be suffering more. So the first thing you must do before making the necessary mindset shift to triumph in 2021 is to acknowledge with compassion the extent of the trauma you have suffered. If you aren't aware of it and can't really see it, then you cannot leave it behind in 2020, which is exactly where we want it to stay. So how can we become aware of how your own individual trauma has affected you? Start by taking inventory of what you've missed out on. The milestone events, graduation, weddings, celebrations, momentous occasions that were left uncelebrated, at least in the way that you wanted to. We all have pictures in our minds of what we hope a situation will look like. We envision what we want to happen, what we hope will happen. And when the picture or that story we have had for our lives does not come to fruition, it doesn't happen like we think it will, it hurts. I'll give you an example from my personal life. I had a picture in my mind of what I wanted my daughter's senior year in high school to look like. And this was a couple of years back. But she was a swimmer, still is, but she was being recruited actively by colleges for her to swim once she was in college. She had goals and was taking steps to reach those goals. She was swimming her best swimming ever in her junior year. She had excellent grades. She was thriving socially with her friends. Really, her life could not have been any better. The summer before her senior year, she started having problems. It was difficult for her to get out of bed, difficult to swim, difficult to study. She could not compete in meets. She could hardly go to practice. Her grades suffered, and doctors could not figure out what was wrong. I took her to doctor after doctor, and this went on for months. And it was difficult. It was not just difficult for her, it was difficult for me as her mother to watch my child, who had it all the year before, start struggling on every level, not just physically, but struggling emotionally because she did not know what was physically going on with her. She was finally diagnosed, but she's continued to struggle physically throughout college testing, swimming, school, social events. It affected every aspect of her life. And even though she had a diagnosis, the physical issues that came with it carried over into her freshman year of college. Nothing about her senior year turned out like I had expected it to, based on how it was going her junior year. Now, I tell you this story for one reason. The tighter I held to the picture of what I expected and wanted my daughter's senior year to look like for her and for me, the more upset and anxious I became. Luckily, my daughter's condition was not life-threatening, and for that I am extremely grateful. But at the time, it was still heart-wrenching to see her lose so much of what she had worked for years to accomplish. It was not helpful for me to tell myself just to buck up because others had it worse. When I acknowledged the difficulty of the situation, the suffering and the loss involved for my daughter and for myself, and let go of the picture of what I wanted her life to look like for her, I was able to see a new picture of what it could be and what I could do to help, what was actually within my control. 2020 has left a mark on all of us, and none of the stories or pictures in our minds or expectations we held happened the way that we hoped. Nothing has been as we expected it to be. But we have made it through. We can start to see the finish line. We aren't there yet, but we can finally see an end to it all. So acknowledge your trauma. Acknowledge the loss of the picture you had for your life in 2020. And if you did lose a loved one, I am not suggesting that you just acknowledging your loss will help you move on. Your grief is unique to you and will affect you in a completely unique way. Please let yourself feel what you feel when you feel it, without imposing a timeline on yourself and without judgment. And if you feel like you're getting stuck in one of your stages of grief, or you're having trouble with your normal functioning, reach out to loved ones or a professional licensed counselor to find the help that anyone would need in your situation. Before we move on with the show, I do have a couple of announcements about some upcoming events and episodes that I want to share with you. So first, I want to talk to you about some exciting things we have coming up in January. The first of which is 20-minute mini mastermind Mondays. That is a mouthful, right? This group or groups will meet twice a month on Monday in the evening, and each group is going to be limited to 10 members. Everyone will get 2 minutes each to share a win, a personal win, and then make one ask from the group, something that you want a little help on or you need some support to take that next step. The intention is to nudge each other and give each other the support to make moves and accomplish goals that we have not been able to accomplish on our own. And I can't wait for this. Just DM me at Imperfect Thriving on Instagram if you want to join one of our mini mastermind groups. Oh yeah, it's completely free. Now I want to share with you a little bit about some upcoming podcast episodes that I'm cooking up for January. January is going to be all about decluttering our lives and our minds so that we can stop procrastinating and you can take action toward your goal and who you want to be. I don't want to give away the details, but I will have 5 solo episodes in which I will explain step by step how to declutter 5 different areas of your life to clean the slate and set the stage for you to make 2021 your best year yet. Your year to do big things. The year you become the best version of yourself. So stay tuned for worksheets, handouts, and Instagram lives with even more support to remove the obstacles that have been holding you back and keeping you stuck. No more getting in your way. We are going to clear the path so that nothing can stop you. Are you with me? I hope so, because I think we can do great things together. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. These might be weekly or they might be bonus episodes. Now let's get to it. We've acknowledged what 2020 has taken from us and the trauma it's caused in our lives. So let's begin looking at 2021 and what we want in the year ahead. The look back was to become aware of the baggage that might be weighing us down, preoccupying space in our minds. This is where the mindset shift comes in. We want to shift our mind from 2020 and what it was not to what 2021 can be. We want to shift our thoughts from feeling helpless and out of control to thinking about what we want and how to get it. So how do we make this shift? Well, let me tell you, here is step one. Step one is to stop holding the pictures of what we expect our lives to look like so tightly. These pictures we have about what we expect our lives to look like and what we expect to happen, we usually tend to hold on to these like a toddler gripping a sucker. We need to take these tightly held pictures of what we expect our lives to look like and loosen our grips. Now, you can still hold them, but hold them loosely so that your picture can change and evolve, so that you can change and evolve. Move away from thinking this is how it has to be or this is how it should be to wondering, what could it be? So step one is to loosen your grip on the pictures of your expected life that you have created. Allow some room. Loosen that grip. Let's move on to step two. In step two, I want you to begin moving away from all or nothing or black and white thinking to considering all of the shades of gray. Going from psychological rigidity to psychological flexibility. And all or nothing thinking is a major obstacle to having this powerful instead of helpless mindset. Let's think about all of the success stories in 2020. And yes, there were some. As harsh as it was, there were still success stories. What do they have in common? Well, the individuals, companies, and corporations that made it through and even thrived in 2020 were those who held loosely to the picture they had of themselves so that they could envision being something else. And they did not think in all or nothing terms. They considered the possibilities. According to Forbes, General Motors made one of the most successful coronavirus pivots of 2020. Early in the pandemic, GM began producing ventilators at its plant in Kokomo, Indiana, tens of thousands of ventilators. And at another factory in Warren, Michigan, they began creating FDA-cleared level 1 surgical masks, 50,000 a day. GM's shifts made such a meaningful difference in the number of ventilators and masks available to our healthcare workers and our population. It generated $489 million in revenue just from the ventilators alone and allows GM to bring employers back to the factory. In Kokomo itself, 3% of the city's workforce works for GM. So GM held the picture of itself loosely and let go of all or nothing thinking, which enabled it to pivot. GM did not say to itself, we are car makers and we are only car makers. If we can't be car makers, then that's it. we're done. They were able to pivot because they held that story loosely and because they considered all of the possibilities. So, step 1, loosen the grip on the picture of your life. Step 2, let go of all or nothing thinking and look for shades of gray. Consider the possibilities. Now we're about ready to move on to step 3. Your mind is primed and ready because you have shifted from holding tightly to what was and thinking in all or nothing terms. Your mind is now flexible, allowing it for change. So let's move on to step 3, which is gain clarity about who you want to be and the direction that you want to go. The sky is the limit now that you have made these 2 critical shifts in your mindset. Now, to determine the direction for yourself, ask yourself the following questions. Now, go ahead and get the Notes app on your phone ready because you're going to want to write these down. Question number 1 to ask yourself, who do I want to be? Now that you are holding loosely to the pictures of yourself and your life, you can change them. Who do you want to be now? You get to decide. Question number 2. Ask yourself, how do I want to show up for those that I love? What do you want your relationships to look like in 2021? Question number 3. What do I want to be known for? How do you want to leave your mark on the world in 2021? Question number 4. What do I want to accomplish? Your path is clear now. We've moved the obstacles over to the side. Start to think about all of the possibilities. Really dream big here. Question number 5. What actions will it take for you to get where you want to go? Once you land on your dream, what you want to accomplish, don't stay there for too long just thinking about the big goal. Your brain will get overwhelmed and try to talk you out of it. Instead, reverse engineer the small steps that it will take you to reach that large goal. Then focus only on the next step. And you guessed it, start taking imperfect actions each day toward that goal. Now you have removed the obstacles of 2020. You have loosened your grip on your stories or pictures that you have created for your life to leave room for growth and possibility. And you are equipped with the questions that you need to gain clarity about who you want to be and where you want to go in 2021. You are equipped with the mindset to have a triumphant year. Can you feel it? I know I can. I hope you have enjoyed today's episode. I will see you right back here next week. But until then, go out and take imperfect action toward the life that you want. If you are enjoying this podcast, would you take a moment to go to iTunes and subscribe? It is so easy to do, and it would mean a lot. Imperfect Thriving is a part of the Practice of the Practice podcast network, a network of podcasts seeking to help you thrive imperfectly. To hear other podcasts like the Bomb Mom Podcast, Beta Male Revolution, or Empowered and Unapologetic, go to practiceofthepractice.com/network. This podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information with regard to the subject matter covered. This is given with the understanding that neither the host, Practice of the Practice, or guests are providing legal, mental health, or other professional information. If you need a professional, I encourage you to reach out to one.